Gentlemen, you're back.
Allow me to introduce myself properly. I am Detective Hercule Poirot of the Kingdom of Belgium's police force.
You should have led with that before. Nathaniel Dryden, editor of the London Illustrated News.
My apologies. I was not aware of your position on our initial meeting.
That's quite all right. You were still more polite than most of the people that come through my door. What can I do for you? I did, but that was supposed to be an exclusive. How did you know?
It is a detective's job to know such things.
Doesn't really explain how, but okay. He said he had something to tell me that was going to blow me away. I couldn't say no. Indeed, she was. Although she was working on her own story, so I left her to it.
At no point did she leave the office?
She's a very hard worker and won't leave until the story is just how she wants it. Needless to say, she outstayed me. She had photographs to develop too, so was in the dark room for some time. I'm sorry, gentlemen, but I have another appointment, if you don't mind. This place is usually full of all sorts that think they have a story for us, or want to know more about something we've published. I was meaning to mention that to Florence, actually.
Mention what, monsieur?
A young foreign girl came in asking about a piece that was on show at the museum. Originated in Eastern Europe somewhere, and Florence had written an article on it.
Did she say why she was so interested?
She said she was researching its journey from its first home with an affluent family. I forget the name. I couldn't tell her much more, besides that it was going to be moved from the museum shortly. No doubt into another exhibition somewhere.
Could this inquisitive young woman have been Mademoiselle Babagna? But why so curious about that particular piece of jewelry?
Merci. You have been most accommodating.
Oh.
Sacre. What is the meaning of this? It is the missing painting, and this photograph is identical to one that had been burnt in the fire.
I do not mean to interrupt.
Then perhaps you should wait until we have finished the interview.
I do not mean to interrupt.
Then perhaps...
Mademoiselle Farquhar, could I speak with you for a moment?
I'm in the middle of an interview.
I really must insist.
That was incredibly unprofessional, Detective.
If we are to discuss professionalism, perhaps we should talk about your work with Mademoiselle Court Smythe.
I think you've got me confused with...
Enough, mademoiselle. It is time for the truth.
You don't think I was involved?
Please do not feign ignorance, mademoiselle. Where did mademoiselle receive her inspiration to make her forgeries? I remind you that I stand before you as a detective. It would be wise not to continue this charade any longer.
Poirot, maybe we should...
Monsieur Hastings, if Mademoiselle Farquhar requires someone to speak in her defense, she can contact a lawyer.
That won't be necessary. She asked me to photograph certain pieces of art, that's all. I didn't know what she was doing with them. I swear. I have no idea. I thought she was just trying to help my career, and I needed it.
Your career does not appear to need the help of a criminal.
She had such confidence. She knew all the right things to say.
And she got exactly what she wanted from you.
I was financially dependent on her. She paid for the lifestyle that I had found myself in, that she pushed me into.
Couldn't you have just said no to her?
And risk her exposing me for what I had done? She was the one holding all the cards. I had no way of proving it was all her plan. I had no other choice but to do what she said.
Merci, mademoiselle. That is all for now. I am sorry to have interrupted your interview earlier.
By the looks of it, what you were saying was much more exciting. Care to spill?
Perhaps we should stick to my questions to you. You have been most helpful.
Oh.
If it is, it's been written by someone that hasn't quite grasped the English language yet. Fire to Irene. Some kind of instruction to commit arson.
It seems too obvious, but that does not mean it is wrong.
Bonjour, mademoiselle. Is everything all right? Do not worry. It will not be long before the murderer is brought to justice.
It's not that. I just cannot understand how such historically relevant pieces like this remain in British hands. It doesn't belong here.
I'm sorry, mademoiselle. I do not have the answer. I'm sure they are well maintained, if that is any consolation.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sure this is the last thing you wish to be talking about. Is there something I can help you with? Well, after it was all cut short rather abruptly, we made our way to Mrs. Allen's play.
Oui, mademoiselle?
Mr. Demir and myself. We were all at a loose end and he was kind enough to invite me. Oh, I wasn't aware Mr. Hastings was to be the focus of Florence's article.
On the contrary, it is only one of many she took at the gala. What interests me is the brooch.
Would you believe I found it? Amazing how careless some people can be.
And you are intending on returning it?
Of course. It just slipped my mind with all the commotion of the painting.
Mademoiselle Kortsma no longer requires it. I shall hold on to it for now.
Yes, and it was something that I wanted to speak with you about, actually. At the gala, I spoke with the bishop and he mentioned a painting he had seen last year. But it was one that I'd read had been stolen. He couldn't have seen it when he said, unless... Well, it didn't sit well with me. So when Evelyn escorted you both to the restoration room and he left, I followed him. I stayed well back, and the bishop is hardly the most threatening. I followed him into his church, but he was gone. I looked everywhere, but he was nowhere to be seen. It was like he just evaporated.
He is a man of God, not a magician.
I don't know what to say. He wasn't there. I decided to wait outside, but when he eventually left, he had a wrapped package under his arm.
You have been most helpful, mademoiselle. I shall not take up any more of your time.
Oh. Huh. Aha. Huh. Hmm.
What do you need? The argument with Irene at the gala, and then with his wife after.
Madame Hélène had uncovered their relationship. But even with this revelation, what still remains a mystery is Monsieur Christiansen's involvement with the theft.